Welcome to the Warbird Mistress. This is London Calling. Good evening. Today is Tuesday, 13 August 1940, and these are the events of the day. Last night saw a smattering of light activity across the Midlands, Wales and the West Country, while today continued to offer us fair weather with only sparse incidences of light rain. What today did bring, however, was 1,485 Luftwaffe sorties over our heads, and our lads of the RAF giving them the what for on what the German command has called Adlertag. While Herr Hitler was undoubtedly sleeping late, his Luftwaffe was not. Beginning almost an hour before dawn broke at 0542 hours over London this morning, our early warning systems picked up on 74 Do-17 bombers taking to the air and headed for East Church's Coastal Command Air Base and the Sheerness dockyards. Our systems also detected that they were alone. Low cloud cover meant that the Bf-110s of ZG-26 found the operation cancelled, but after KG-2's bombers were already inbound. Unfortunately, that same low cloud cover meant our pilots didn't get airborne until the bombers were over their targets. East Church was hit by over 200 high-explosive bombs and incendiary clusters. Several hangars, a half-dozen Spitfires, and the ammo dump were destroyed and 16 airmen killed. The trip back to occupied France, however, was a dangerous one for the Hun. Jerry's poor coordination is to thank for the unescorted flying pencils that were sitting ducks for the Hurricanes of 111 and 151 squadrons and the Spits of No. 74 Squadron. 5 Dorniers met their end and 6 others were sent back to France with heavy damage. In another dawn engagement, our boys got their stuff together and mustered up the Hurricanes of numbers 43, 87, and 601 squadrons, as well as the Spitfires of No. 64 Squadron, to fight off 38 of the 1st and 3rd groupers of KG-54's Junkers 88s and their escorts, the Bf-110s of 5LG-1 and Bf-109s from JG-2. Jerry was boned for the Royal Aircraft Establishment's Farnborough complex and for the Army Co-op airfield at Oldham. As they approached King John's Castle, 4 U-88s were shot down and one 109 was sent down in flames while 3 of our Hurricanes were lost. 5LG-1 was hardly finished with us today, though. After a break through the breakfast hours, activity kicked up again when 23 of their Bf-110s set off for a fighter sweep over Portland. Met by the Hurricanes of 601 Squadron, the German heavy fighters were no match for our single-seaters, and 6 were promptly shot down. Another was damaged, and only 1 of our Hurricanes was lost while another took damage. This was all just the hors d'oeuvres so far. At 1400 hours, intelligence reports that Goering sent out the signal to begin Adlertag operations, the grand offensive against us and our island's defenses. An hour and a half later, German bombers set out en masse from airfields in France to strike at our defenders' airfields. An hour and a half later, German bombers set out en masse from airfields in France to strike our defenders' airfields. Lehrgeschwader 1's 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Groupin launched 58 U-88s with Bf-109 escorts from JG-53 and Bf-110s from ZG-2. They took off from Orléans-Brissy and Châteaudun, bound for Boscombe Down, Worley Down, and Andover. From Sturzkampfgeschwadern 1 and 2, 52 Stukas were inbound from Saint-Malo, Cherbourg, Lannion, Saint-Pierre-sur-Dive, Angers, Valais, and Pas-de-Calais. They were escorted by JG-53's Messerschmitt 109s and 3 ZG-76's Bf-110s, all bound for Wormel and Yeovil. The pleasant afternoon gave just enough cover to obscure targets, and our interceptors certainly did their bit. Numbers 213, 238, 257, and 601 squadrons buzzed like so many beehives, unleashing their Hurricanes into the wind against the onslaught. Spitfires spat forth from numbers 152 and 609 squadrons. As they all rushed to meet the enemy over the channel, they caught them just over the coast. Unable to find their targets, the Stukas of STGs 1 and 2 chose instead to attack Portland. Number 609 butchered the butchers with 6 of 9 aircraft from a single Staffel of 2 STG-2, finding themselves in what is still very much the English Channel. 1 LG-1 Junkers 88s gave up completely on making their way to Boscombe Down, instead choosing Southampton's ports and the neighbouring civilian districts for their prey. 3 LG-1 had a touch of better luck, bombing the airfield at Andover, killing 2 ground crewmen and damaging multiple buildings. A single U-88 ended up out by Middle Wallop in our sector station. His luck ran out, though, as he missed the installation and the bombs meant to bring us to our knees instead landed harmlessly in free British soil. Joining him in ploughing our fields were a half-dozen of LG-1 bombers. I'm sure the scrap salvagers will make better use of their planes than Herr Goering did. Not quite done for the day, Jerry joined us for tea with 4 LG-1, sending Junkers 87 Stukas to hit the Coastal Command Station at Detling, escorted to the Danse Macabre by JG-26's Bf-109s. While Hurricanes were scrambled from No. 56 Squadron to intercept them, 4 were shot down while only 1 Bf-109 was sent down in flames. The Stukas played a deadlier hand, perhaps the worst of the day, as they not only destroyed the airfield's operations block, but also killed 67 of our men, including the station commander himself. On the ground, only 2 anti-aircraft sites were operational in position to return fire, and even then only 7 rounds in total were sent against the sinister swirling Stukas swooping onto the airbase perched vulnerably on that Kent plateau. Furthermore, the Blenheims on the ground were all fueled up, bombed up, and packed with live ammunition for tonight's bomb raids. 22 aircraft were destroyed on the ground, as well as the ammo dump and bomb storage areas, each explosive burst setting off the munitions and fuel next to it, creating a blazing inferno that could be seen for some distance. The attack on the Detling airbase was also an unfortunate lesson for our Royal Observer Corps. Unable to contact airfields directly, but rather forced to go through ROC HQ at Maidstone, who then relayed information to Anti-Aircraft Command, no warning was sounded in the proper direction, as all thought the strike was bound for targets in Rochester. After all, despite German intel's erroneous reports, Detling is a coastal command base and not a fighter command base. This mistaken planning is already on the discussion table as a matter requiring rapid reform if we are to win this struggle for our very existence. German losses today grossly outnumbered our own. Our boys shot down 39 German aircraft, including at least 5 Bf-109s, 4 Do-17s, 4 U-88s, 5 Bf-110s, and 4 U-87s. Our losses totaled 15 aircraft and only 4 airmen. Nearly all of our pilots bailed out, and if they weren't home for tea, they'll be home for breakfast and surely joining their mates for the next go at Hitler's airborne minions. Number 87 lost Flying Officer Richard Lindsay Glyde of Hurricane P-3387 today. The Perth, Australia native had previously served in the RAAF, but was forced to leave for unknown medical reasons. Travelling to Britain on his own farthing, he joined the RAF on a short service commission in June 1937, becoming a staff pilot with No. 1 Anti-Aircraft Cooperation Unit at Farnborough. He fought in the French campaign as part of 87 Squadron, and was interned in Belgium when forced to land at Depane, but escaped and returned to France with the help of the British consulate, missing only 13 days of action. We're sure the Belgians forgive him his forfeiture of their hospitality, as he was credited with a Bf-109, a second probable one, and a shared HS-126, and was awarded the DFC on 4 June. After the evacuation, he shot down a Bf-110, shared 1 U-88 and 1 HE-111, and damaged another Bf-110. He was shot down today by a defensive gunner in a Heinkel U-88 off Selsey Bill and crashed in the channel. He was reported among the missing, where he will ever remain. Also reported missing is Sergeant Pilot Henry James Marsh of 238 Squadron. An RAF veteran serving since 1928, he applied for pilot training in the early part of last year when serving as a Sergeant Observer. On the 11th, he shot down Heinkel 111, and today he shot down a Bf-110 before being engaged by Bf-109s while flying Hurricane P-3177. His exact fate is unknown. At 27, he was already an old man in a young man's war. Burgess Hill, Sussex lost a son today when Sergeant Philip Purchell Norris was killed while flying Hurricane P-3348 in combat off Portland as part of No. 213 Squadron's effort to hold off the enemy. Norris joined the RAF in October of 37 as an airman undergoing training for pilot, and served with No. 213 Squadron throughout his career. During the French campaign, he flew out of Biggin Hill with B Flight while A Flight was deployed on the continent. He became famous, or infamous, for flying low over the family home if time and fuel permitted. Over Dunkirk, he shared 2 victories, a Bf-109 and a HE-111, and saw heavy action. As France fell, 213 was restationed at Exeter with responsibility for Portland and Plymouth, and it was in this role that he would fall to German guns today. His body will wash ashore on 26 September in Camier. The sole Spitfire lost today was R-6766 of Blue Section B Flight No. 65 Squadron. Pilot Officer Felix Stafford Gregory of the RAF-VR was killed when he bailed out at only 250 feet above deck near East Tree, Kent, and was killed instantly upon hitting the ground. Commissioned on 15 June 1940, he had joined 65 Squadron on 6 July after having finished training. He had only just shot down his first kill yesterday, a Bf-109. He was a fighter pilot for all of 38 days. He was buried in his hometown and is commemorated at the Congregational parish to which his family belonged. And that is all for this very busy day. And we know that we will face a long campaign in front of us, and we shall meet the enemy on our own turf and on our own terms. That is all, and good night. Thank you for tuning in to the Warbird Mistress. This is London Calling, a day-by-day detail of the Battle of Britain, and I hope that you subscribe, watch the playlist for new editions, and do check out other offerings on this channel. Subscriptions through Patreon and YouTube are more than welcome to keep this channel going. Thank you and take care.